What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how I make leather barefoot sandals. And this is 1/4" vegetable tan leather. And I have Latigo leather laces. And the method that I came up with is I put a rivet in here. So what that does is that avoids having to tie a knot on the other end of your leather lace, which does work, but with a thick 1/4" piece of leather, you're really going to feel that knot down here. It eventually wears off and breaks off anyway. You can tie these with 1/8" leather lacing and just put a knot under here, and after a couple days it'll flatten out and you won't really feel it. But this, you have absolutely nothing under there, and this rivet's held up for about 3 months now. And I figure if the rivet just wears down and breaks like I expect it to, I'll just replace the rivet here. And this is finished with just jojoba oil, which is very non-toxic and skin friendly, and it oils the leather, so it conditions it. So these are essentially 100% non-toxic. Of course, you're going to want to buy some leather, and I got this from Springfield Leather. You're going to need a mallet, and this has a nylon head. This is to hitch your punches, and you're going to need laces and punches. So to keep this as simple as possible, you're going to want to get a 1/8" punch, and that's going to be for the 1/8" leather lace. This is what I used when I started making my sandals, and these still do work. However, I do think the thicker laces lock down the sandal better, and they do look a little bit more masculine. Then I moved up to this, which is a 1/4" piece of leather. So what I eventually found was official or authentic Latigo leather. And that is this stuff. This is what like ranchers use. And this is super awesome stuff. What Latigo leather really is when they process leather, they tan the leather. And when they tan the leather, that preserves it so it doesn't dry out as easy. So there's chrome tanning, which they use chrome or metal to process the leather. And then there's vegetable tanning, where they use the tannins from vegetables. So when they process Latigo leather, they actually do both chrome tan and vegetable tan. And they take it to a third step where they infuse it with fats, oils, and waxes. And so this makes it flexible, very durable, and it holds up really well to the elements. So it's ready to go. It already feels broke in, so you can kind of see how it's rubbery. And it's nice and thick. This has got to be, I think this is 3/8" thick. And so to punch these, you can get away with using one of these punches or cutting out the holes, but as you can see how I have my sandal, but this punch here is what you're going to want to use for the wider laces. I use a Stanley made in the USA utility knife, and you can use any type of utility knife, but this is my preferred tool to cut out the sandal. You can use leather shears, which I've tried. They work really well, but you're not going to get as precise as a cut when you go around the edges as a utility knife. So here is the trick. Go on your favorite Barefoot sandal website, print out your size template, trace that onto a piece of cardstock and cut it out. And then you essentially have your template here. Then trace that onto your leather. So I got my toe plug here, and then this is going to be for the side posts. And you're going to have to go around this anywhere from 2 to 5 passes. Just go slow, take your time, and put a fresh, sharp blade in here. If you have a nice sharp blade, you're going to do less cutting, and it's just going to make your life a lot easier. And then just cut on the line. So I already have my left sandal cut out, so now I have my left and my right. I'm gonna go ahead and punch these out. So I'm just gonna eyeball this. I'm gonna put a little dot here. That looks good right there. Say about a good 1/2 inch. This punch is a little bit smaller than an 1/8 inch, and it comes with your rivet set. So I have to put a hole through the sandal, and then I have to put a hole through my lace. Now this part can be a little tricky because you do have to center this, and if you get off center, then just make a new hole. Don't want to go too deep. You want this hole to be as small as possible. And that's perfect right there. So this will give you an idea of what we're doing here. It's actually a very simple concept. Take your sandal. Leather lace is going to go down through here. Going to fold this over. Line the holes up, of course. Take your rivet from the top. You're going to come down through the sandal. You're going to get a copper washer. And this is going to go on the bottom side. And then we're going to hammer this all together and then cut off the extra tip. And this actually is essentially a grounding sandal too. That wasn't my main idea, but it's just kind of an additional bonus. Before I do this though, what I personally like to do is I like to oil the sandal first. I messed up. I got an extra line here. I got extra pin over here. But that'll probably just wear off anyway. And here it is, jojoba oil. And jojoba oil is 100% non-toxic. I bought a gallon jug because I actually use this stuff for woodworking to lubricate my hand tools. And it's very skin friendly. A lot of this stuff actually goes in skincare products. So this is a very healthy oil. So I would recommend the jojoba oil. It's got many uses around the house. Okay, now for my favorite part of sandal making, and that is to oil the sandals. And you only need to oil the top side. It will take a little bit of time for the leather to absorb this oil. It gives it like a golden brown, golden orange color. You can see the difference there. So they look really good when they're finished. I let the first coat sit for about 2 to 3 hours, and then I'll come back and apply the second coat. And I will put about 3 to 4 coats of oil on my sandals. And you can come back, you know, when the leather starts to dry out, you'll know. Then you'll just wipe them down with a damp cotton cloth to get the dirt off. And then you can go ahead and reapply some more oil. But you really don't need to reapply the oil all that often. And then I just let the oil cure for at least 24 hours before I install the laces or wear them. Okay, everybody, so the oil is cured. This is 24 hours later. And I put a total of 3 coats on, and I thought that was sufficient. You could really put on 4 or 5 coats if you'd like, but I just don't think it's necessary. Like I said, when they start to dry out, clean them up and just reapply some more oil. But just kind of give you guys a look. I just love this like a goldish, it's like a gold orange color. Leather is so unique. Each sandal is going to be different too. And I love all the scarring that you get from leather. Okay, so let's get going on these. So what you'll need is a piece of metal. This is all I really have laying around. It doesn't need to be a 90-degree piece. A flat, solid piece of metal is what you need because we are going to place the rivets on this metal when we secure the fastener. Mallet, get your lace with the hole. Go ahead and route this through. The leather's gonna kind of tightened up. I like it nice and tight because it's gonna break in and loosen up anyway. So line up the rivet. You want to come from the top side of the sandal. Run this through. There you go. That's what it looks like on the top. And then this is what you got on the bottom. Then the washer goes on the top here. And with this kit, you get a rivet setter, which is this tool here. And so essentially you're going to have the holes on here. This is the bigger hole in this kit. So you just basically slide it over. You're going to slide this over the rivet. And essentially we're just going to hammer this down. Place this flat side on a piece of flat metal. Then this is what you got on the top side here. That's tight. That's going to be good right there. So then you can see that's nice and flat. That's what it looks like on this. And then I'm going to snip this with some wire cutters. And then just try to cut this as close as possible. A little tougher than I remember. Okay, and so then you're left with this point here. Then I take a hammer with a flathead to kind of flatten this tip out. You don't, I mean, it'll wear down when you're walking on concrete. So that flattened it good enough. It still has a little bit sticking out, but I feel like that also kind of mushroom heads the tip there. And then this will just smoothen out when you're walking. It might kind of bother you at first, but you won't really notice it after a couple days. Well, there you go. So next we just have to lace up the sandal. There's many different ways to lace up a sandal, but I'm going to show you my preferred method. You're going to start on the outside here. You're going to come up under, if this even fits. I might have to loosen these up now. Oh, shoot. So these on the bottom side, they kind of shrunk on me. I'm going to come from the back side and just open these up a little bit. All right, so that fits now. So you're going to come from the outside, or I guess up underneath. And the best thing to do is to just practice relacing your sandals, and with repetition, you'll just remember how to do it. So that's what I got. Then this curls around like this. You're going to come from the outside up underneath. So you usually want, just to eyeball this, you usually just want your lace to kind of come around the heel right there, just to start. Now it's looking like a sandal. Okay, so at this point, you have to stick your foot in the sandal. This is about what you should have. You want a little bit of slack up here, a little bit of slack back here. You're gonna have to readjust these several times until you get it right. So you're gonna come up over here. You're gonna come under the heel loop. Smooth side up. That's gonna pull this up. Then you come under that top strap, and you can set this up here by the midfoot, or you can set it up here. You can kind of play around with where you want that. And you're going to come under from the back side of the sandal, behind all of this, towards the front of the sandal. This is the rough side of the lace, and then it's going to give you this double lace here. Then you're going to flip around. This is going to be a repeating pattern. You're going to go over the first lace, under the second lace, over and under, and that's the weave. And then you got this nice little weave here. Now this is going to be another heel strap. It's going to wrap around this way. So you come around here, and that doubles up here. And then from the front of the sandal to the rear, just like the other side. And so when you're doing this, you're going to have the smooth side on the bottom and the rough side of the lace on the top. And then flip back up, over the first lace, under the second, and we're just going to go up towards the toe strap. And it's going to create that. You're going to have the smooth side on the bottom and the rough side on the top. Now, you're going to get this nice looking pattern up here. If it doesn't look uniform, you did something wrong. And I messed this up several times, but I did it so many times that now it's second nature. So what's the pattern? I'm sure you know. Over the first lace, under the second lace. Let's see here, so... And then it creates this nice weave right here. Now you're pretty much done. All you do is create this knot where you got kind of a loop like this, and you're gonna go under this strap, and you're gonna come back up over, And that's going to create your knot right there. And it kind of creates these two loops right here. And you can slide these back and forth. If you want it up towards, like I said, the midfoot area here, if you want to slide it back towards more of your ankle area. Then at this point, you can kind of do what you want. So I always bring this back here to the heel strap. And this is what I personally like to do, is I go under both of these. And then I'm going to create this loop here. It's kind of like I think it's a slip knot. I'm not sure. But I'm coming back this way and I create this loop here. So actually you have like a working end and a fixed end, but you can pull this end and this will create a loop here. So then you can tighten this, and then you're gonna have some slack here. It doesn't look the best because you have all this extra lace, and I might trim 3 inches off of this, but I keep as much of this as possible only because when this rivet wears out or the lace wears out, you can punch a new hole on the end of this lace and still have lace. You're gonna want to get as much of this as possible, but that's pretty much it. This leather is going to be stiff at first, and you're going to have this knot on the inside of this area, and you're going to have one over here as well. So the inside of your feet may be a little sore for the first week, so you can loosen these up if you need to, but all the leather will break in, your skin will toughen up, and you'll get used to it. And so this is why I love this lacing system, is once you have these set, you can essentially just slip these off like that. And then you can just slip them on. So that you don't have to retie your laces. And this stays tight enough for me. I hike in these. I hike and walk every day in these pretty much. Now, if you're on a real crazy hiking trail, you may slip around not having a rubber sole with any treads, but it is doable. All right, everybody. I hope this helps you on your sandal making journey. Peace.